I'm Hillary Mulick, and I'm a wedding photographer based in the Carolinas. Welcome back to another episode on my YouTube channel. This week's topic is all about being able to ask for feedback and how to also receive feedback from your clients. Now, in my own wedding workflow that I use with my clients, there is a part in my wedding workflow where I specifically ask for reviews from my clients. And reviews is just one way of asking for feedback, usually positive feedback. And if you want to download my wedding workflow, you're more than welcome to do so. It is for free. You can download it in the description below. You can see my whole wedding workflow, talks about each of the steps and why I organize my workflow this way. And you can even see in there at which point in the workflow I decide to ask for reviews from my clients. So if you're interested in that, you are more than welcome to download that for free down in the description. So I first thought about this topic of when to ask our clients for feedback and how to receive that feedback. I was recently listening to a book called Daring Greatly by Brené Brown, and most of the book talks about vulnerability, and there was one thing that she said that really resonated with me about asking for feedback, and that is such a vulnerable thing to ask people like what they think, because we're kind of putting ourselves out there and saying, hey, I did this, or I provided this service, or I acted this certain way, and what did you think about it? And so it's asking for feedback can always be hard in that sense, because it just makes us feel a little bit more vulnerable. But I was thinking about it in the sense of our photography businesses and how important it is to ask our clients for feedback, because it is providing an opportunity for us to be able to evolve as business owners, be able to change things in our businesses for the positive, so that in the future we're able to continue growing and continue creating awesome opportunities for ourselves. And that is all done through asking for feedback from our clients. So I wanted to discuss some ways that I ask for feedback in my own business. So one way that I ask for feedback in my business is in my wedding workflow. One time that I ask for reviews from my clients is when I'm sending over their final gallery. Now, when your clients receive their final gallery, this is when they're going to be the most excited about their photos. So whether this is a wedding gallery or a portrait gallery, when they open up that gallery and they see their photos for the first time, this is when they are most excited about their photos. And that's the opportunity that you want to take to ask them for a review. So I give them a link to my Google reviews. I give them a link to review me on the Knot if it's a wedding. So this is when they are most likely to write a review for me, and it's most likely going to be a positive review because they just opened their photos and they are really excited about them. In the past, I have done things a little bit differently where I ask for their reviews at different parts in my wedding workflow. So I'll send their final gallery over, and then maybe I'll ask for a review a few weeks later after they've gotten a chance to look through the whole full gallery. And I just found that doing that just kind of lessens the excitement over the gallery over time, and they're just less likely to write me a review in general. So my advice would be to ask your couples for a review right when they see their final gallery. And so I use pick time when I'm sending my galleries. And when I send that pick time email saying, hey, your gallery is ready, you can look at it right now, I include in that email a link. Please write me a review. I love your feedback and I love hearing how much you love your photos. So if you click this link here, and it just sends them directly to either my Google reviews or a different type of review platform where they can review me. And that's how I've been able to rack up so many reviews on Google, is by using this process of asking for their reviews as soon as I send them their final gallery link. So a second way that I've asked for feedback from my clients is I have created a Google form, and occasionally if there's a client that I've worked with for a really long time, or I've just done a lot of different things for them, or maybe I tried something new with them and I wanted to get their feedback, I will send them over a link to a Google form that I've created, and it just asks basic questions about what are some things that they really enjoyed about working with me, what are some things that maybe they want to see a little bit more of, or maybe they want to see change changed, or maybe they didn't really like a certain aspect of my workflow or how my business is run. And I would love that feedback from them so that I can maybe tweak things in the future so that future clients can have a little bit better of an experience. And it just, like I mentioned before, just creates more of an opportunity for growth within my own business and positive growth at that. So one thing I did want to mention about asking for this feedback, when you're sending over this private Google form and you're asking these really vulnerable questions about things that they liked or didn't like about working with you, is that this process of growth and learning is supposed to be uncomfortable. And I think it's really important in this culture, and especially within our own businesses, to normalize that discomfort, because there's no way that we can grow and learn by just staying comfortable, staying stagnant, just keeping things just the same as they've always been, because how else are we supposed to grow our businesses unless we get uncomfortable and ask those uncomfortable questions? So I know that it can be very scary and very vulnerable to put yourself out there and ask your clients these questions, but I'm telling you that your business will highly benefit from it in the future, and your future clients will benefit from it by gathering that feedback, good and bad, and being able to change and tweak things in your business from year to year and just make things that much better so that your business can always be growing in a positive light. So I've talked about how I ask for reviews and feedback in my business. Now I want to discuss how I receive that feedback, because that is also a very important element to feedback in general. You ask for that feedback, but what are you going to do with that feedback when you get it? So one thing that I do when I receive feedback, most feedback is going to be public. So whether it's on Google or the Knot or whatever, I'm always going to reply to their review. So whether it's positive or negative, I'm always going to reply and say, thank you so much for allowing me to work with you and for taking the time to write this review. If it's a really positive review, I always love doing a screenshot of it and putting it on my social media and thanking my clients more publicly. I love doing that, and it's also a great way. I have a little highlight bubble on my Instagram of just reviews that I've saved in there. So it's a really great way for people who are thinking about being a future client of yours, where they could go and just quickly see reviews that you have gotten in the past just through social media. So that's a really great way that you can use positive feedback for your future clients. And obviously, if they share feedback more privately as well, so if they send you an email, then I'm going to reply back to those as well and just thank them for that feedback and tell them how much I appreciate it. So what do we do if this feedback is negative? Now, negative feedback is a good thing, even though it may not feel like a good thing initially. Like I said earlier, asking for feedback in general is always going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to be this thing that maybe we don't do very often, and it might feel very personal and very vulnerable asking for that feedback, and to get a negative response from it, that's never very fun. But just look at it as this is a great opportunity to make tweaks in your business and make sure that no future clients that you ever have are going to feel this same way again. So I want to talk you through how I respond to negative feedback. So first off, when I have gotten negative feedback, it is usually through email. And what I'll do, initially I read it, and of course I feel sad, and sometimes I feel like, well, why did they think this? Or I might feel defensive initially, or I might think, oh, I let them down in some way. So those are all very normal thoughts. So after I initially read a email or a message that is negative feedback, I take a step back and I just kind of think about it during the day. And I think about, was this justified? Was it something that I could do better in the future? I'll even talk to some industry friends and I'll say, hey, this is just some negative feedback that I got back recently. Obviously, you want these industry friends to be people that you trust, because you're being vulnerable by coming to them with, this is what someone said about me. And so I loved talking to my industry friends, what do you think about this? Is there something that you do in your business that, I could apply to my business that can maybe remedy this negative feedback that I got? So I'll definitely do that, and then I'll just kind of collect my thoughts, and then after I do that, I then respond to my client. And when I initially respond, I always thank them for their feedback, thank them for taking the time to be able to tell me their concerns, and then I tell them I'm eager to apply these changes for future clients. And if it's something that I can remedy in the moment, of course I ask them, is there something I can do about it right now? Sometimes there's not, sometimes it's just an experience that they had and it's done and there's nothing I could do about it. And so I just tell them, thank you for telling me. I will change things and adapt things for my future clients. I really appreciate your feedback. Or if it's something that I could maybe remedy in the moment, I'll say, is there something I can do? Or I'll just offer some suggestions of, well, this is what we can do to make sure that this is corrected. And so I'll offer those things to them as well. Because ultimately I want to make sure that the client feels that I'm doing everything I can to make whatever situation that they feel like is wrong. I want to do everything I can to make it feel right. So one example of this, just in my own business, and this is me being vulnerable sharing this, but I once got it wasn't necessarily a negative public review, but it was not what I thought it was going to be. Usually most of my reviews are like 5 out of 5, like this was great experience. And just her response, this client of mine's response was not that. And so I messaged her privately and I said, hey, I saw this review. Thanks for taking the time to do that. I noticed that it seemed like you weren't really happy with your experience. And so I want to make sure that if there's something that I can do to make that experience better. And she had replied to me, this was someone whose wedding that I shot. She had replied to me that she felt like I wasn't as aware on the wedding day of like her dress and her hair. She said in a lot of pictures, her dress kind of looked rumpled, or she had these little tendrils in front of her hair, and she felt like in a lot of photos they were like tucked behind her ears, and she felt like I should have been the one to untuck those and make sure she's looking her best, and she just felt like I wasn't as detail oriented on the wedding day. So those are things, obviously things that I can't remedy anymore because those are things that happened on the wedding day. And so, for example, in this specific situation, I just thought, okay, how can I remedy this for the future? So of course I thanked this client. I said, thank you for letting me know. I will make sure that I'm doing I'm doing things a little bit differently for my future clients so they don't feel this way. And then I thought, okay, what am I going to do for my future clients? What am I going to do? Do I need to provide more education on things in my wedding planning guide? Do I need to be more forward about, what I feel like my role is as a photographer in terms of your dress or their dress and their hair and makeup and that kind of stuff? And is that something that I should be in charge of as a photographer, or is that something that maybe I should recommend they have their hair and makeup artists maybe follow them around during portraits and making sure that everything looks okay? So just my idea in this specific situation was I probably need to provide more education for my future clients so that they know exactly what my role is as a photographer and what other vendors' roles can be on their wedding days. Another negative review I've gotten in the past was in terms of how I shoot my film on the wedding day. And a lot of my film is not a lot, but some of my film is shot quickly and they're generally more blurry, and that is something that doesn't bother me because I love the look of film, and I shoot that in addition to digital on the wedding day, so I will include both in my final gallery. But I did have a client who felt like that was kind of unprofessional looking, seeing these blurry photos in her gallery. And so in that situation, I just thought, okay, what can I do for future clients? Of course I thanked this client, thank you for letting me know. And I will make sure to be more attuned to that in the future and be more mindful of that. And so I thought, what can I do for future clients? And so I actually added a section in my wedding planning guide, again, just talking about film and how sometimes it's blurry, and that's just kind of the look of film sometimes because it's a slower medium and wedding days can be more fast-paced, but I still want to include those images in their final gallery because I think they look really cool. And then of course it made me be more mindful also in the culling process of when I'm going through all of their wedding photos. Maybe if I include a film image of the full wedding party and it is a little bit out of focus, but I really like the way the photo looks, I'll make sure I also add a bunch of more in focus ones, either on film or digital, so that they can have more options in their gallery. So that is something that, because of her review, I'm more mindful about in the future for my clients as well. So all in all, asking for feedback in your business and receiving that feedback and doing something about it is awesome. So whether that feedback is good feedback or bad feedback, good reviews or bad reviews, it's all great because it is all an opportunity for you to grow as a business owner, for you to make tweaks in your business to make your photography business just so much better from year to year to year. And getting this feedback is always going to be uncomfortable. Asking for feedback is always going to be uncomfortable because we are being vulnerable and we're putting ourselves out there and we're asking, what do you think of this? So that is always going to be uncomfortable. That is what makes it so important. And I think the more we do it, the more uncomfortable it will be because we're normalizing it in our businesses by asking for these reviews, asking for this feedback, either publicly or privately. And either way, it's going to be great because the more and more we do it, the more comfortable we'll be with it. And it's just going to create more and more opportunity for our business to grow and just be that much better in the future. Just want to mention again that if you are interested in downloading my full wedding workflow and just seeing all the steps of how I work with my wedding clients and when I ask for reviews and when I do certain things and check off certain things, all of that is available for you for free in the download in my description. So you can download that full wedding workflow today if you click on that link. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next week for another YouTube episode. Bye guys.